I may have accidentally uncovered secrets at the Kingdom Hall I visited. I'm LT, and this is Backpack Religion. I visited a Kingdom Hall, a place where Jehovah Witnesses gather and worship for the very first time on a weekday evening. I think it was a Thursday specifically. I was planning on visiting them for a while, and I was exploring the internet to see what Kingdom Hall is near me and what times do they have service. And I found out, hey, they have 2 services a week. One on a Thursday and one on a Sunday. And I figured they're probably the same message. Apparently, I was wrong. And you'll see what I mean. But first, I probably should explain for those unfamiliar who the Jehovah Witnesses are. Jehovah Witnesses branched off from Christianity around 1870 thanks to a man called Charles Russell. He led his own personal Bible studies and taught a rather unique theology that he ended up proselytizing to other people. It became rather popular pretty quickly, and a new movement was born. Perhaps you're wondering what makes Jehovah Witness theology unique compared to other Christian denominations. Well, there are a bunch, but some that stand out is one, they have their own translation of the Bible called the New World Translation. And by what I understand, they're pretty much the only denomination or religion that uses that translation of the Bible. Mainly because it was translated within the denomination itself. And some others that stand out would be the rejection of the deity of Christ, their very unique takes on eschatology and end times. They don't believe in hell generally. But what they're actually known best for by people isn't really a theological point, as much as it is just something that people are exposed to constantly, and that is their evangelical zeal, their proselytization. For people who live in the US or anywhere where there's a substantial amount of Jehovah Witnesses, probably at some point bumped into Jehovah Witness missionaries, whether that be by knocking on their door or handing out tracts on the side of the street or whatever the case may be. They tend to be very evangelical, trying to spread their religion. And I know over COVID, and I think they did this even before COVID, they would also use mail-in letters and online methods to accomplish the same purpose. And if you received anything from Jehovah Witnesses, you might have noticed this organization called Watchtower. And it's sort of the organization or board that oversees the entire denomination and creates all their print material, basically. And since Jehovah Witnesses are expected to share their faith a lot, it should come as no surprise that they're also taught how to share their faith. And that's where the Thursday service comes in. By what I gathered from the fellow Jehovah Witness members I talked to when I visited, Thursday services are basically like equipping services, at least at the Kingdom Hall I went to. And these equipping services are primarily, by what I can best tell, encouraging members to share their faith and how to share their faith the way Watchtower expects them to, and most effectively, and tactics and tips and all that. And so for this reason, I was told by the members that they don't normally invite guests to the Thursday services. They're welcome to come, like I wasn't kicked out or anything, but they don't normally invite them to a Thursday service if they are going to invite them to one. They'll invite them to a Sunday service because that one's a little bit more traditional and kind of more sermon based. However, not knowing any of that, I just sort of showed up and uncovered some secrets. Okay. They're not really secrets. I mean, all the things I'm going to be talking about you could find on their website if you really wanted to. But how many people besides Jehovah Witnesses actually go to their website willingly to explore? Exactly, my point. So they might as well be secrets. And the secret I'm referring to is how they try to evangelize. And you might think to yourself, that's not really a secret. I mean, they knock on doors and they send out mailers. That's how they evangelize. That's not exactly what I mean here. The service I was at there seemed to be a method that was emphasized and taught. And they emphasized and taught that method through videos, which were mostly animated, but they also had testimony videos of how people converted due to these methods. They also had members go up and act out scenarios as if they were practicing this evangelical method. And they would also have question and answer time, basically, and read scripture about how to share the message of Jehovah Witnesses and all of that. And although it was mentioned how each scenario is different and you might have to ask different questions or approach it with slightly different details, this was the outline I noticed that they taught on how to convert others to Jehovah Witness belief. Step 1. Find out a person's insecurity or fear. It seemed like the first step for Jehovah Witness when they knocked on the door or first met someone was to greet them, be generally cordial, but then jump into asking some questions like,
A lot of people are thinking about government these days.
You're so right. Which side are you on?
Actually, I'm neutral when it comes to politics. Instead, I support God's government.
God's government?
What are your thoughts on the troubling times we're having right now? Or what are your thoughts on X, Y, and Z? Something that might be kind of sensitive, trying to figure out sort of their, maybe a fear they have, something they're insecure about, something maybe that they don't like, maybe like the problem of evil, for instance. And then that leads into step 2. Recite some sort of Bible verse that addresses that concern, specifically from the translation they use. Because ideally, you want the person to resonate with that verse and be like, oh, I wish I had that sort of peace, or I wish I had that comfort, or I wish I could be forgiven like that. You want them to have some sort of sense of relief from what you share based on the fears and insecurities they shared earlier.
Yeah, millions of people pray for God's government. Many just don't even realize it. I'd like to show you what I'm talking about. It's here, Matthew 6 and verses 9 and 10. You must pray then this way. Our Father in the heavens, let your name be sanctified. Let your kingdom come. Let your will take place as in heaven, also on earth. Have you heard these words before?
Yeah, my wife says them all the time.
So what are people praying for?
Step 3, ask the person to take some Watchtower material and invite them to like a one-on-one Bible study or meeting regularly somehow.
I never made that connection.
If you'd read it, I'd like to leave this magazine with you. It's entitled, What is God's Kingdom? Then the next time we can discuss the question, what will God's kingdom accomplish?
Okay.
And it seemed like that was probably the hardest sell to make. And that seemed to be the thing that they acted out the most or tried to emphasize the most on how to do effectively when I was there. And they also taught a lot how to carry out a Bible study once the person does say yes or agree to go to one. And I remember a very interesting scenario where those two ladies up front on stage pretending like they're having a Bible study as if the one wasn't a believer and the other one was a believer in Jehovah Witness theology. So take that for what it's worth. It was just interesting. And step 4 would be trying to get them to a Kingdom Hall or some sort of Jehovah Witness event, start getting them to actually attend and be part of the community. Step 5, hopefully they convert. And that's the basic breakdown of the method I saw they taught on how to convert people to their belief system. At least on that Thursday service. Maybe they have other methods that I'm not aware of. And it was interesting because this service lasted for over 2 hours. For about 2 hours, they were practicing and training on how to share their faith, which is a lot of dedication, and I'm assuming a lot of them show up to a lot of Thursday services, so they spend a lot of time learning how to do this. So now you know this as well for the future, and perhaps if a Jehovah Witness knocks on your door, observe what they say and how they approach the conversation. It'd be interesting to see if they actually line up well with this method, or if they follow some sort of different tactic. I would just be curious. Oh, and side note, for those who have watched this long into the video, here's a little extra for you. At the end of the service, I was very warmly greeted. They were very friendly to me, to the point where it seemed like a little excessive. I mean, most places I go to, I'm treated well and everyone's kind to me. It really helps you to break out of that stereotype that everyone's like what you see on the news, these negative, nasty people. A lot of people are actually very kind to you if you give them the chance to be. But as I said, at the Kingdom Hall, it seemed like the friendliness was turned up a notch to a point of excessive friendliness. And perhaps it's just because I can get overwhelmed, and at that moment I was overwhelmed because like the whole congregation basically swarmed me and surrounded me and was trying to shake my hand. They were telling me their names and asking me what my name was and like hoping I come back and stuff, and I felt like I was surrounded by the entire congregation. It was a lot for me to take in at that point. And the funniest part about that whole experience was that it seemed like they actually tried to use the method on me at some points, where they were trying to find out more about me, how their Bible translation can help me in my circumstance, and inviting me to come out to another one of their services or do a Bible study with one of them. It seemed like they were just using the method right there, right then, like they're applying what they learned, and I happened to be the person in the room that was like the guinea pig of the situation. It felt kind of surreal, not gonna lie. Again, friendly people. I had nothing against them, I just thought it was very interesting to observe that. Anyway, thank you for listening. Let me know in the comments where I should go next or what you would like me to do next. And tell me about your Jehovah Witness experience if you have any. And if you gained value from this video, leave a like and subscribe. We'd like to have you around. And as always, friends, I gotta go, so farewell.